You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now.
We know that 3 people are dead, including the suspect shooter. We know that the suspect shooter was a teenage student.
Another community left reeling from a school shooting tragedy the week before Christmas. What we're learning about the victims and law enforcement's sprawling investigation. Then a suspect in a high-end car theft ring on the run. The brazen crime that's already seen 12 others arrested, with dozens of cars stolen, plus the technology making it possible. And food prices going up again. Why this time more expensive groceries is not a sign of inflation returning. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Tonight, at least 1 student and 1 teacher dead, at least 6 more in the hospital after a gunman opened fire this morning at a private Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin. The shooter, a 17-year-old student at the school, is also dead, apparently from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, with the AP reporting she was a female. Right now, of those 6 that were hurt, we know that 2 have life-threatening injuries. The ages and conditions of the other victims still unclear at this hour. Tonight, an in-depth investigation underway into what happened and why.
Many of you have asked me about the why of this. Why did this happen? What do we know? What was the motivation? I do not know. But I will tell you this, our detectives are working hard in the investigative process to find out as many answers as we can.
Meantime, the mayor of Madison tonight says she is focused on 2 things: lifting up ailing members in her community and working to make sure this never happens again.
I am on record that I think we need to do better in our country and our community to prevent gun violence.
There have been at least 83 school shootings in the United States so far this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive. A Florida community mourning the death of a deputy who was shot and killed while on duty. Law enforcement officials say Corporal Elio Diaz pulled over a pickup truck in Charlotte Harbor yesterday when the suspect, Andrew Moiston Jr., shot Diaz and then ran away. The deputy later died in the hospital. Another deputy shot Moiston after a manhunt. He also died in the hospital. And a Texas Department of Public Safety trooper is in the hospital right now in critical but stable condition after being hit by a car. Officials say he was struck by a Mini Cooper while responding to a crash on a highway overnight. It's not clear whether the driver of that car will face charges. Tonight, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson is almost certain to waive extradition, meaning he will no longer contest being moved to New York to be charged. That's the state where the 26-year-old faces a second-degree murder charge in Thompson's death. Right now, Mangione is in Pennsylvania, where he was initially arrested. His indictment in New York could come as soon as this week. This as the broad daylight murder of the healthcare executive has led to online popularity for the shooter and attempts in Congress to use the killing to call for healthcare reform. National correspondent Matt Gelka reporting on the divisive response to the shocking shooting.
The suspected United Healthcare CEO killer, Luigi Mangione, is cemented firmly in public conversation.
I have real condolences for the healthcare CEO. I mean, this is a real person, But you also got to go, sometimes drug dealers get shot.
Mangione has emerged in some circles as a sympathetic figure fighting the system. A legal defense fund set up on the platform Give, Send, Go has raised more than $128,000 as of Monday, with messages of support from anonymous donors.
Just a cold-blooded, horrible killing, and how people can like this guy is, that's a sickness, actually.
Wanted posters for other CEOs popped up in New York City. Self-described socialist clothing company Comrade Workwear says they're going to make playing cards of other most wanted CEOs. Some Democrats see it as a moment that can't be ignored for healthcare reform.
What you have seen rising up is people's anger at a health insurance industry which denies people the health care that they desperately need.
Murder is never justified. It isn't. But if this country's leaders don't pay attention to the conversation that's happening right now this weekend, that is a mistake.
Progressive Democratic Senator and healthcare industry critic Elizabeth Warren had to walk back comments she made to the Huffington Post last week. Warren told the outlet in part, violence is never the answer, but people can be pushed only so far. Before telling Politico, I should have been much clearer that there is never a justification for murder.
They are just very lost on this right now, Democrats, and they are just trying to shoehorn a policy argument into a cold-blooded murder.
And the organizers of that online defense fund say they're reaching out to Mangione's new attorney to ask the suspect what he'd like the money to be spent on. Amira?
Very interesting. And Matt, is it possible that the suspect does in fact get that money? Can he access it?
Well, it is, but the group's organizers have also said they'd use it to help, quote, other American political prisoners if Mangione doesn't accept the money. Now, another popular fundraising platform that many people are probably familiar with, GoFundMe, pulled down campaigns supporting Mangione, saying their platform prohibits fundraisers for the legal defense of violent crimes.
All right, we will continue to follow it. I know you'll stay on top of it. Matt Galka live in D.C. for us. Thank you. A shutdown countdown is on once again. The government will run out of funding on Friday unless a deal is made. Text for the final package was expected yesterday, but congressional insiders say a disagreement about funding for farmers has caused a bit of a sticking point. Fiscal hawks want to limit extra spending, but at the same time, Republicans from farm-heavy states say the bill on the table doesn't have additional assistance for the agricultural world. Congressional rules require 3 days of discussion before a vote, leaving Congress very little time or wiggle room this time around. New Jersey lawmakers remain displeased with the federal response to the growing number of drone sightings on the East Coast. Pentagon spokesperson Major General Pat Ryder casted doubt that the alleged drones would be engaging in intelligence gathering, while last week John Kirby suggested most of the sightings were of manned aircraft. New Jersey Assemblyman Eric Peterson believes we are not getting the full story here.
Either the government, the Homeland Security, knows exactly what it is, and they're not telling us. They're lying to us. That's where they would be lying to us. Or they have no idea, which is a total failure of national security.
Meanwhile, over the weekend, 2 people were arrested for allegedly flying a drone dangerously close to the Boston Logan International Airport. A third suspect fled and has not been caught. TikTok is asking the Supreme Court to block a law that would ban the app unless it's sold to an American owner. TikTok argues the law violates the First Amendment, but lawmakers, they are concerned about national security. The company wants a decision by January 6th. The law is set to take effect on January 19th. The justices could decide by then, or they could temporarily block the law to buy more time. A suspect sustained non-life-threatening injuries when they were shot inside a federal courthouse in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania today. Authorities say the man attacked a security guard with a knife. The identity of the suspect has not been released. No guards were hurt in the attack, and an investigation into what led up to that assault is underway right now. Meantime, in Columbus, Ohio, police are searching for answers after 3 mothers were killed inside a home over the weekend. The house belonged to Daryl Hambrick, who was shot and killed just last week. Another man was arrested yesterday in connection to that killing, but police have not yet determined if Hambrick's death is connected to the triple homicide. They also say they are going to take their time in connecting the dots.
It's going to take a little bit longer to make sure that we're very careful in going through the scene meticulously so we do not miss any key piece of evidence.
And Massachusetts investigators now looking for a 13th suspect after breaking a high-end car theft ring up. 12 suspects between the ages of 15 and 58 have been arrested and arraigned so far. All of them charged for taking part in a group that stole more than 60 vehicles across 3 states worth more than $2.5 million. Massachusetts Attorney General says the suspects would raid dealerships between 2 and 4 a.m. overnight and use a device to rewrite blank key fobs and take control of the vehicles and drive them right off the lot. 7 tourists, including 1 American, now recovering from an illness linked to pina coladas that they drank at a 5-star resort in Fiji. Fijian authorities said the tourists were hospitalized on Saturday night with neurological symptoms and vomiting. 5 have been released and the others are now in stable condition. Officials are now waiting on toxicology test results. And coming up, the action President-elect Donald Trump announced. He says he will create 100,000 tech jobs, plus what he said about a potential pardon of New York City's mayor. Then the steps you can take before the end of the year to make sure you're not missing out on major savings. And how one woman is trying to protect her community from a cancer-causing gas leaking from medical buildings in dozens of cities. We'll be right back. It is a roller coaster of week when it comes to weather in the United States. A winter storm sweeping across the Northeast will most likely be rain due to warmer temperatures, but snow could accumulate by the end of the week when it's expected to get a bit colder. It's going to continue to be both rainy and snowy in the Pacific Northwest. This after a tornado swept up cars in the San Francisco area. You can see this video that is quite dramatic. The Midwest also saw heavy snow and ice storms over the weekend. Turning now to President-elect Donald Trump, who held a news conference earlier today at Mar-a-Lago, where he touched on topics ranging from the economy to diplomacy, but began by announcing the Japanese SoftBank Group is planning to invest $100 billion in U.S. projects over the next 4 years. Trump estimated this will create about 100,000 jobs focused on artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies.
This historic investment is a monumental demonstration of confidence in America's future, and it will help ensure that artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and other industries of tomorrow are built, created, and grown right here in the USA.
And separately, during that same news conference, Trump was asked if he would consider pardoning New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who's now facing federal corruption and bribery charges. Trump says he would need to look at the case to see all of the facts, but he thinks Adams was treated unfairly, suggesting he was targeted because of his criticisms of the Biden administration.
He essentially went against what was happening with the migrants coming in. And, he made some pretty strong statements like, this is not sustainable. I said, you know what, he'll be indicted soon. And I said it, not as a prediction, a little bit lightheartedly, but I said it.
Food prices are rising, but not necessarily because of inflation. Analysts say much of it actually has to do with weather, crop yields, and supply chain issues. Egg prices are up more than 37% annually, with bird flu reducing supply. Orange juice, that is up 17%, due largely to hurricanes and citrus disease. Chocolate prices, those have also soared 108%. Western Africa has been slammed with bad weather. Overall, grocery prices up 1.6% from the previous year. But with inflation firmer than expected and the labor market still strong, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is facing skepticism from fellow Fed officials about another rate cut. Some of them have become less confident about pushing more steep cuts. A former advisor to Powell says one option is to lower borrowing costs this week, while suggesting the Fed is prepared to move much more slowly going forward. And as we get closer to rounding out the 2024 year, we are taking a look at what you should be focused on to make sure you don't leave any money on the table. Financial expert Harry Drozdowski reminds us that there are savings to be had, from retirement to health care.
If you have a retirement account, a 401k or an IRA, and you have company matching in particular, maybe it's this month that you want to make sure you've maxed that out. If you're someone who is doing gifting to other people, and get that done by the end of the year, you can give $18,000 away to each and every person you like without paying any gift tax on it.
And if you have a flexible spending account, remember to use it or lose it. Make sure you spend those remaining healthcare dollars you already set aside before the end of the year. Some employers do give you a bit of a grace period into next year. Tech giant Amazon disregarded internal warnings on injuries. A new report from the Senate now accusing the online retailer of ignoring safety concerns for its employees. The report revealing Amazon warehouses recorded over 30% more injuries than the warehousing industry on average in 2023. The Senate's 18-month probe, drawing on over 130 interviews with workers, found Amazon has been demanding impossible production rates and quotas, treating employees as disposable when they get injured. It also says Amazon has been manipulating the data on alleged injuries. An Amazon spokesperson has denied the claims. Miami Dolphins wide receiver Grant DuBose has regained movement in all extremities, but does remain hospitalized in Houston. DuBose was immobilized and taken right off the field yesterday after a very scary helmet-to-helmet collision in the third quarter of the game against the Houston Texans. Dolphins say DuBose is showing positive signs in recovery, but is still right now under observation. Meantime, the San Francisco 49ers, they have suspended linebacker Devontae Campbell for the final 3 weeks of the season for conduct detrimental to the team. Campbell refused to go into the game during the 49ers' 12-6 loss to the LA Rams last Thursday night. Campbell will now lose 3 game checks worth nearly $260,000. And we have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We are taking the pulse of America, and we begin in Ohio, where restaurants are closing because of rising costs.
Joby Bowman and her partner opened the original Brew River in 2012, and then were forced out after landslides damaged their building. They successfully moved to their current location in Lidwood in 2018, but then COVID hit. They survived that, but now find themselves needing to raise $30,000 in the next week to pay off a big bill, or they may join several other notable restaurants closing this month. Bowman says she's been squeezed by much higher food costs, as well as higher labor costs, coupled with a resistance from customers to menu price hikes. Industry experts agree, saying restaurants across the state and country are seeing increased costs.
In Bakersfield is a bakery called Tastries, run by owner Kathy Miller. Miller has been serving custom-designed cakes to the community for over a decade. Back in 2017, the state of California opened an investigation into Miller after she explained to a same-sex couple that she couldn't make them a wedding cake due to her religion. The State Department of Fair Employment and Housing stepped in to plead the couple's case. Since then, Miller has been in court with the state who claimed that her beliefs, quote, harm the dignity of all Californians. One of those cases being ruled in favor of Miller by the California Superior Court of Kern County. But the state appealed the decision in 2023, which leads to Miller's appeal being heard soon.
Kathy wants to be able to have win-win situations, like referring a couple when she can't help them, and being able to continue to operate her business.
Laura Rowland runs Gatekeeper Paranormal. For 10 years, she's offered tours detailing the haunted history of Bobby Mackey's.
Everything from shadow figures, full-bodied apparitions. We hear voices either just with our ears or on a recorder. Pretty much everything has happened here at Mackey's. People have been scratched, touched, pushed.
Rowland says because paranormal study isn't an exact science, there's only one way to tell what the fate of the spirits in the building will be.
Many people think that the spirits are attached to the land and that whatever is built on this property, the spirits will still be here.
And coming up, emissions of a carcinogenic gas from medical facilities will be drastically reduced under new rules. Why some people are still concerned. New regulations to reduce emissions of a cancer-causing toxic gas used at medical sterilization facilities across the country were finalized earlier this year. But now there is concern over delays to implement those new rules. Spotlight on America national investigative correspondent Angie Moreski traveled to Laredo, Texas, one of the locations where residents are putting up a fight.
There's a lot of information.
The Clean Air Laredo Coalition,
we're going to need probably English and Spanish,
is working to raise awareness.
All right, well, let's go.
Warning citizens in this 95% Hispanic community about the dangers of ethylene oxide. Ethylene oxide, or ETO, was classified by the Environmental Protection Agency as a carcinogen in 2016. It's a colorless gas used to sterilize medical equipment at nearly 100 commercial facilities across the country, including Midwest Sterilization in Laredo, Texas. And like many similar facilities, Midwest is located near residential communities.
What is it like for this community to sit in the backyard of this facility emitting a known carcinogen?
It's very frustrating. It's so hard to understand how that is possible.
Tricia Cortez is a community leader fighting to lower ETO emissions since state testing showed cancer clusters here, and the EPA designated Midwest and 22 other facilities across the country high risk to nearby communities due to high levels of ETO emissions. The new EPA regulations are designed to reduce ETO emissions at commercial sterilizers by 90%, but the industry is pushing back. The Ethylene Oxide Sterilization Association is now suing the EPA, calling the new rules overly broad, saying the stringent standards will put some sterilizers out of business and disrupt the medical supply chain. ETO is used to sterilize 20 billion medical devices a year, half of all sold in the U.S. Midwest in Laredo is one of the top ETO users, sterilizing 40% of surgery kits in the nation. The company declined our request for an interview, but told Spotlight without companies like Midwest, medical devices would not be sterile, putting patients at risk.
Nobody is saying they're not important, but we just don't want to be the group that suffers in order for them to push out their product to the rest of the country.
I don't want to get cancer. You don't want to get cancer.
Concerns remained high in Laredo at an October town hall meeting after recent local emissions testing still showed elevated levels of ETO in the air.
We are not a sacrifice zone.
I'm Angie Moreski, Spotlight on America.
Spotlight discovered during our visit many residents are still unaware of the risk.
You didn't know anything about ETO?
No.
Leaving groups like Trisha's even more determined to push the industry to comply with the rules.
This work is ongoing and we can't stop.
In Laredo,
Here's a little bit more on the health risks.
I'm Angie Moreski.
Thank you, Ms. Thelma.
For Spotlight on America.
Four-year-old twins from Ohio who found a lost wallet have a new lifelong friend. The girls and their mom found the wallet in a Walmart parking lot. They couldn't find the owner, so they left it with the security with a note that said, "Please call me when you find your wallet." Soon they got a call from retired police officer Lisa Strickland, who was overjoyed. They met up and Strickland gave the girls Christmas presents while the girls, they gave her a new wallet and most importantly, a new friendship.
Those are my two grandkids now. I'm Nana. I'm Nana too.
Aw, isn't that so sweet? We'll leave it on that positive note. Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful night.